Geocachomaniacs.
Geo Gearheads.
Welcome back to the Geo Gearheads. This is episode 453 of the only show that's a weekly podcast kind of about geocaching, but some other geo-related things, featuring a couple of guys from opposite time zones of the U.S. named Daryl W4 and Chris in the Northwest. Is there anything else, Chris, I should be throwing in here?
Oh, Daryl, we are
make sure we are covered with the word only.
We are quite opposite, not just in time zones.
Well, this is sometimes true. Sometimes we're not.
Oh, that's true. Sometimes we agree. And it's hard to get a good podcast when the hosts agree all the time. So today, I'm going to disagree with you.
Ooh, this should be fun.
No,
And, you know, we could turn this into a lot of fun, especially because it's an election year.
Oh.
Wow, let's not do that.
Yeah.
But this is our Randomize CI. Not C, but CI.
It's very positive.
CI, which is 101.
Foreman.
Oh,
wait.
no, we have sources for all of these stories.
Well, yeah, but we're not going to tell the people who they are.
Yes, we are.
All right, then.
So
No,
that doesn't work.
I'm not agreeing with you.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Okay.
Actually, I guess we don't know who the people are for the first couple of stories, at least.
See?
I might be able to find. I might be able to find that out. See, now I'm going to. Anika. Okay, so our first story comes from Anika. So we can find it out. Ha ha ha. What was that? Sorry.
Fine. Just out, Anika. That's okay.
Well, she wrote it on the geocaching blog and, attached a name to it. So there's not really any outing. But this is a personalize your geocaching with the attributes search. And anyone who's a premium member got notified of this by the... Well, actually, I think you still have to sign up for the newsletter. But it was in the newsletter. You would have gotten the alert that they have turned on a new personalized search feature for us. And this is in the app and in the geocachinger app and on the website. We now have the ability to do searches by attributes.
Pretty cool.
And it is a little different. But why don't we start off with talking about what they did do and not what we already had or what they didn't do. So they say in the article, searching by attributes is now available to premium members in the advanced search filters on the Geocachinger app and the geocaching.com. We took the 26 most popular attributes, added 3 new ones, and made them available in the premium search filters in the app. Select the search icon on the map view and expand attributes to search. Finding the best caches for you is now an easy search on the go. Planning your next caching trip has become more personal. You can now select any of the 70 available attributes in the premium search filters on the geocaching homepage and geocaching map. Expand the filter panel to select the desired attributes. Now they go on to include in a fact section, which, I'm not sure how they got the facts since they announced this at the same time they wrote it. So how do people ask questions frequently about it? If they didn't know it was there, how did they ask those questions?
It was most frequently written about.
Most frequently anticipated.
Oh, there you go.
Questions. There we go. Okay, now we got it. So if you're looking to exclude attributes from your search, let's say you don't have a UV flashlight and want to exclude night caches that may require one, you have to use the pocket query to do that. Now, this is also for the attributes that are saying not child friendly, because you can toggle some of those attributes so it's child friendly, not child friendly, or just off.
Mm-hmm.
So for those where you have what they're calling the negative state attributes, you can't do these. And again, you have to use a pocket query. So here's what I want to know, Chris. Why do we even care that they came out with this if we have to go to the Pocket Query to get any of the good features? What was that?
I don't know. I can't figure this one out. You can sort by them, but you can't filter by them.
Well, I think
Right?
I think the answer. Well, you can find by that. You
can-
can find.
Yeah, it's a positive, not a negative. You
Right.
can't.
So you
take
have to find something that's child friendly. You can't omit ones that are not child friendly. So you can only find the things that have the tag. And I think what this really comes down to is this is just the first stage. We might wait another year or two to get the second stage. I don't know. But I really hope we get those negatives because that's going to be a big thing. Because I want to omit the ones that aren't part of a power trail, or that are part of a power trail rather. So that if I'm going over here, I don't want to collect a bunch of this power trail. I want to save the power trail and do the power trail when I do the power trail. Or if I have the kids, I want to make sure that I omit anything that is not child friendly.
Right.
I don't necessarily care if it is child friendly or not, but I want to make sure it isn't going to be not child friendly because I've got teenagers with me.
And teenagers are not child friendly.
No, but there's there's a couple in Florida and a couple in Australia that come to mind.
Children?
Where they're clothing optional.
Ah, gotcha. Yes.
So that's not the kind of thing that you necessarily want to bring the kids to, especially because at least the two in Florida that I know of are specifically adults only.
But that's where the teenagers want to go.
I can't comment on that.
Oh, I have a couple of teenagers. I can comment on that.
Okay, fine.
And that's where you have to keep the teenagers away from. Yes. And that's why I have gray hair.
That's why.
That's the reason. I didn't have gray hair before kids.
See, and I thought it was Windows Update 2004.
I think that just installed here for me.
Oh, okay. So we'll see in about 3 or 4 months when you finally roll it back.
Yeah. Let's see. Where is it? No, I got 1909.
Okay, so you're still safe
I'm still safe.
until it rolls out next week. You're still safe, and we don't have to worry about you just dropping off the podcast.
But Daryl, Windows is very proud that they have a new browser made just for Windows 10 called Edge. In case you wanted to know that, I'll share that with you.
I'm a little bit surprised they're saying it's made just for Windows 10, especially because they made a big deal it's back on the Mac.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. You know what? Let's talk more geocaching.
Yeah, we better. Oh, and we will have in the show notes the release notes for both the attribute search on the website and on the geocachinger app. But we already kind of hinted that there's 3, but there's actually 4 new geocaching attributes. You want to tell us about these?
I would love to. The first one, I need a drum roll. The first one is the challenge cache attribute. So challenge caches are a type of mystery cache. The coordinates to the cache listing are most often matched to, or not a match to the physical location. The challenge to claim it is a match. Sorry, this on the challenge cache, it is a match to the physical location. The challenge is to claim a find on a challenge cache lies in having to accomplish a series of geocaching related tasks defined by the cache owner before logging the cache online. Oh, Daryl, did you know that? Before logging the cache online.
I did.
So you could log it in person.
Yeah, well, we've gone through this debate.
I just haven't seen that in
we did find that somewhere that you were allowed to sign the log, or you were not allowed to log online until after it was signed, but you didn't have to, or you couldn't. I don't remember what it was exactly, but basically it was you could not log online until you've met the requirements, but there is no prohibition against signing the cache before you've qualified. You just can't do the log online.
Gotcha. So you can only add the challenge cache attribute to caches that meet the current guidelines as well as grandfathered challenge caches. Geocaching HQ may remove. Boy, I don't know if English is my first language today.
Doesn't sound like it.
Geocaching.com may remove the attribute from cache listings where it has been incorrectly added. I don't know if I've ever seen them do this before. Going forward, if you're planning to submit a new challenge cache for review, the challenge cache attribute must be added, just like the challenge checker.
Now, this is one of the first times I remember them actually adding the attributes. I knew that they had added them years ago, but I don't really remember it, to be honest. So I think at that point, they didn't really care. This, in my opinion, probably should have been done when they brought back the challenges after the moratorium.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of the trouble that they were looking at then was in getting the API updated, which they were, they've since replaced that original version of the API. So presumably this is easier to do now. And they've established better relations with those partners. So they probably had the heads up that, hey, these are coming. Here's the code that you'll need to address for them, but we can't tell you what it is yet. So put in your placeholders now. So that's my guess.
Right.
But I have the feeling these have been in the works for a long time. I
think so. Just Finding Our Way says, referring back to you can sign the cache before you log it online. It's in the help desk article. See Hide a Cache 2.12.7.
It's so awesome having the research department. Thank you so much on that. So yeah, that's what we should probably actually go and look that up while we're here so that we can actually talk about it.
You go do that. I'll read about the next cache attribute if I can.
I don't think that's possible.
I'm gonna read slowly.
Do your best. We have faith that you can, but we won't hold it against you.
Just hold your breath. The bonus cache attribute. A bonus cache is a mystery cache for which you have to find clues in other caches. Sometimes the coordinates for the bonus caches are in one other cache. In other cases, you gather clues for the final coordinates of the bonus cache from multiple other caches. Clues for a bonus cache can be hidden in any other cache type. Cache owners with published bonus caches are encouraged to manually add the new attribute to their caches. On the cache page on the geocaching.com, go to edit on the sidebar under admin tools. You know how to do attributes. And then make sure to save that. So if you have a bonus cache, go ahead and mark it. I assume this is also true for Adventure Lab bonuses.
I am having a lot of trouble navigating through the
Daryl,
system here.
Luckily enough, there's another attribute for me to read.
Okay.
Now, here's one I think we've all been waiting for, the power trail attribute. A geocaching power trail is a large number of caches often placed at a minimum distance that's 0.1 miles or 161 meters to each other, hidden along a walking, biking, or driving route. It often promotes a player's ability to increase their find count. I may add significantly. As a one-time community service, I love this. We offer cache owners the opportunity to email us a list of their GC codes of their currently published and active Power Trail caches where they would like the attribute added retroactively. So you can email a comma-separated list of the GC codes to us via the Help Center, which Daryl will find briefly.
Well, I have the Help Center. And I can't find the article.
You need to do that by September 30th, 2020. I like that. I like that they're willing to go ahead and put that attribute on a huge number of caches. I'm thinking, Route 66 and the ET Highway where there, 5,000 caches.
Yeah, absolutely. And even some of the smaller ones, can you imagine going through and trying to update 200 caches on your own? I mean,
Yeah,
that's going to be
you
a
do it.
pain.
It's an afternoon. There's a rainy day coming up sometime.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
it's probably going to be a lot better for geocaching.com as well to make sure that it's just done with the CSV.
exactly.
And that's going to be the easiest way to do it all the way around and the most accurate, because I can just see people opening 300 tabs in Chrome and having like every third one not update.
And I don't know why my computer crashes so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Chrome and tabs don't work very well right now. All right, so here's what I'm finding when I go to the help desk. There is nothing for the 2.12 that I am finding. Oh, you know what? I think I might have found a glitch in their numbering. Yeah, so there's multiple 2. Whatevers.
2.12.
And you can't search for the 2.12. It comes up with there is nothing.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we have to try to find this.
Okay, well, I've got
Another
one
way.
more to read.
Okay, go ahead and read that one. But yeah, the power trail, again, in my opinion, this is well past due.
Exactly.
And this is going to fix, for a lot of people, the problems that they've been having with things like the scuba caches being used inappropriately.
Right. So that's it for the ET Highway. No more scuba caches. You don't need to bring that scuba gear with you next time you do the ET Highway, just in case, because they're all marked that way. Okay. The fourth one is the geocaching.com solution checker attribute to help geocachers ensure their solved coordinates are correct before they go to find the final container. Cache owners can add a solution checker to their mystery caches. In the following days, we will automatically apply the challenge, cache, and solution checker attributes to already published geocaches. If you're creating a new mystery cache, the geocaching.com solution checker attribute is automatically added to your hide when you select the display the solution checker on the cache page during setup. So there you go. So
where am I going?
Well, caching. And if you're creating a new challenge cache, bonus cache, or a cache that's part of a power trail, please add the matching attribute before submitting your cache for review.
Okay, so
Butterfly Girl has a good question. Does the power trail attribute go on GeoArt caches?
well, and that comes to another thing that Just Finding Our Way asked is Project GC says there's one more attribute coming, but unknown timeline. Care to bet on what that will be? I'm going to say that's going to be the GeoArt. I would say the power trail should not go on the GeoArt because the power trail is supposed to be a run out and grab as many as you can. The GeoArt, you do have to usually do some legwork before you can find them all.
Because if you want any blue in your GeoArt, you've got to use mystery caches.
Right.
Or
and
where
how likely is it that you're going to be able to make a traditional or multi or letterbox GeoArt without having to fudge the number somewhere to make it end in the right spot. So I think you're going to have to do, I mean, you could probably do it if it's like an empty field, or maybe even you should just get lucky, but it's going to, in most cases have to have a puzzle or two. So, I would say not, but I haven't seen the rules or anything talking about that explicitly yet, which
Just
I think might be part of the GeoArt.
I figure it's going to be a GeoArt or a gadget cache.
And that's a good idea too, because good thought too, because I have heard that there is a gadget cache attribute coming. But I don't know anything from anyone officially. But yeah, I would think they're going to have a separate designation for GeoArt for the same reason that you want the separate one for the Power Trail, so you can quickly filter for the GeoArt.
Mm-hmm.
They might decide that the Power Trail is close enough and they're going to come up with a gadget cache. But I'm not, personally, I'm not sure I really want a gadget cache attribute. Because how often is it going to be that you go, oh, I want to find nothing but geocaches, and then clear out all of the geocaches or the gadget caches?
Caches, yeah.
I know that's a kind of a silly reason, but then you're also going to get into the, well, is this a gadget cache or not? Just because it's a cool box that has a padlock on it doesn't mean it's a gadget cache.
That doesn't qualify.
No. And I've seen gadget caches which are just a box with a padlock.
Right.
So, bleh. All right. I did find that article, which, of course, when I click on it now, tells me it's not found.
Well, you may have found that article.
I have the article still open. I'm just making sure that I can put this link in the show notes for people. But it is knowledge base ID 127 page ID 206 signing log. See, this comes up not found when I click on it. Does that work for you as well or no? It's in the show notes. But the article actually, section 7 of this article actually says signing log. Cachers may sign a challenge cache physical log at any time. However, the challenge cache may be logged as found online only after the log is signed and the challenge tasks have been met and documented. For caches published after April 21st, 2015 with a challenge checker, the owner can confirm the qualifications with the checker when the cache is logged as found. No further documentation is required from the finder. So there we go.
Interesting.
But I want to know why I can't get a link for this. That's really bizarre. Kind of almost as crazy as why it won't let me find it in the first place. Huh. I went flummoxed. And the best part is I'm on the page and I just go into the address bar and hit return. Mm-hmm. Page not found.
You're right. That's weird. Okay,
wow.
well,
so if
geocaching, but for a computer.
Oh, this is just bizarre.
You know what's bizarre? Preston sent in an email.
That's bizarre?
No, I don't know.
Okay. I was going to say, I think we have different definitions of bizarre.
Okay. But Preston says, I love the shows. Well, thank you, Preston. But I can't seem to find where or how to download the show notes. If, for example, show 333 states the audio download and show notes complete with links are available at this particular address. When I click on the link, I only seem to get the audio. What am I missing / doing wrong?
Okay, so that text is from YouTube. That's the only place that we actually put that one. But it does actually link to the show notes. So if you click on that, it does go to the show notes at cachermaniacs.com. Now, here's the thing that's a little bit weird about it. The show notes on that website, the links are in a color that's really close to the body text color. So you can't really tell especially because there's like no underlines. So until you hover over them, it's kind of tough to find it. Now, the 333 that he mentioned, if you actually bring that up, there are a bunch of links and stuff in there. And of course, when I'm trying to do it now for the show, it's also not found.
Well, no, why would it be?
It's one of those kind of days, I guess. But now I've got it. Okay, so if I go to, and I want to do this because we have had more than a few questions about the show notes, because they are a little bit, now they're unorthodox. Back when we started this show 8-9 years ago, whatever it was, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, it was the way that most of the shows were going, which is you have the text in like a prose format because it gave people better searchability. Now that doesn't necessarily hold true, so we've kind of shifted a little bit, and we were doing more of the bulleted lists for shows like this, where it's a whole bunch of links. So it's going to be a little easier. You just go to the bullets and you can find it. But for most of the shows, especially these older ones, it's going to be just a block of text. And in that block of text, you have the links. So any of the guests are going to be on there. In this case, it was Cash Tourneau. So you had the guests, you had Cash Tourneau. There's a PowerPoint presentation on YouTube that was linked, and the bookmark of geocaching.com local events. So you've got all of those links in there, along with the YouTube link, links to subscribe to the audio podcast, and the email address. And all of that is under the player, which is where the audio is. So you have all of that stuff in there. It's just a little bit challenging sometimes to find. And excuse me, I seem to recall that on the phones, it's even harder.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have another email from frequent guest of the show, Merlin 1392. That was a good year. I think that was the year I was born.
Which explains why you're having problems reading.
What? Get off my lawn.
That's also the last time you had your glasses updated, right?
Exactly. He's talking about GeoGearhead's 451, the temperature at which paper burns. GPSR versus smartphone number 4. He says, here's another reason to go for a GPSR over smartphone. And in all capitals, he yells, tracks. Does it show railroads?
Well, it could.
No.
That's for our next guest, though, or next email, I think.
Okay. On Friday, a couple weeks back, I was after a cache in a swamp. Using my smartphone, I found the first cache on the way to the second, and it was a relatively dry path into the swamp. It had just really tall grass and hidden logs to work around and over. I made my way to the cache, found it, signed it, logged it, and started to head out. Of course, I was turned around a little and started out on a new path. Realizing what was happening, then I set my course for the first cache I found, but I was in a different part of the swamp. I came across the clearing that I thought would be easier to navigate, to get to the hiking trail sooner and to get back to more caching. Turns out the clearing was actually a bog. And as I started to cross, it got deeper and deeper into muck. About 8 feet short of my goal, I couldn't move anymore. I didn't have the strength to continue. Hot and tired, I reviewed my options, which were pretty limited. The best choice seemed to be 911. I spent the next hour extricated from my predicament and educating about a dozen firefighters into why someone would be in the swamp getting stuck. If I had been using my Oregon 450T, I could have very easily followed the tracks from my path in to my path out and bypassed all this excitement. Although it does give me another good caching story to tell. I do use both, and more often the smartphone, but now I will always have my GPSR when in a sketchy area, even in the middle of Lansing.
That's just kind of awesome.
Wow. I could see that happening.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
just moving through deep snow is exhausting, right? Up to your knees or something.
But
And
at least then you'll usually have your footprints that you could follow back.
Mhm. But
But
as you get into a bog and you step in there and that mud and muck come back around your shoe, your boot, it can actually hold you in there.
yeah, definitely.
You can-
And yeah, I always loved having the tracks. You know, that breadcrumb trail was amazing to try to follow back. And it's something most geocaching apps just don't do.
Mm.
There are some that do that, but most don't. And I really wish we would get that feature
Mhm.
in the geocaching apps. So I agree that is a very, very big reason. And the whole thing of marking the car doesn't necessarily work for you
Right.
because, like in this case, that you go through the caches in an order, and then if you try to take the most direct route back, that's when you're going to run into problems.
Right.
So yeah, I totally understand where he's coming from with always take the GPSR with you. And it's one of the things I probably should have mentioned when I was talking about it, but I never have used it when I did it. And it's one of the reasons why I started taking the GPS with me and having it even on, and I'm not using it. It's still there keeping track of where I'm going.
Mm.
So even if you're a smartphone cacher like I am, and you have the GPSR, take it along, leave it on. You don't have to touch it until you need to check your tracks.
Exactly. GSM times 2 says tracks save me from being lost at night twice. Love tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, how many times have you gone in and discovered the right way to get out afterward?
Oh,
So
bushwhack.
there is that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's times when it's a lifesaver and times when you're just not going to use it. So
I-
you have to figure that out once you get in. You're not going to figure it out ahead of time.
When my GPS was new, and I would turn it on every time I got into the car, put it in the windshield there. I used to play a game that I would make sure my tracks went down up and down every street in my neighborhood. So each day to work, I would take a little different path just to get, extra tracks. And, and then by the time they started to run out, like, the ant trail, you'd have to go back down those streets again.
See, we had a game that we played when we all had GPSRs, which was leave the tracks on while you're eating lunch and see who drifted the most.
Oh, interesting.
And the Colorado was pretty bad. It was
Or good, right? You would win the game.
well, the winning the game it's kind of like golf. The lower your number, the better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun, but rarely disappointing, especially because we had such high hopes for the Colorado.
Right.
All right, let's move on to LNN Railroad, who kind of needs those tracks for something else, I guess. I had another case of the plastic/rubber on an old Garmin GPS failing. Earlier this year, I decided to use my Colorado 300 to find a puzzle cache. I was looking on the map back in the car. I noticed the click wheel had failed. The little ring of material that holds the click wheel in had started separating, and the wheel wanted to fall off. I thought of trying to repair this with glue, but didn't think that would work. My solution was using Suguru, a rubber that you can initially mold like clay, but in a day cures. I removed the old ring of the material from the GPS, then rolled little bits of Suguru to stick in and make a replacement ring. I had to add the Suguru in small sections, but I got a contiguous ring. After letting it cure, the next day I tried it out. The ring I made was a little tight, but once I was able to get the click wheel back in, it worked well. If anything, it seemed a little better than I remember because the material had probably been failing for a while. The nice thing about this repair is it's not necessary to get inside the GPS. The previous repair I had to do was also because of the material failing. This was an Oregon 450T. The power switch became erratic. Between the rubber on the case you press and the actual switch on the circuit board, there's a spacer that had started disintegrating. I had to open up the case for this repair, but it's relatively simple and YouTube is your friend. Again, Sugru was the solution. I removed the crumbled material and put a bit of Sugru on the same or of the same size and shape. After letting it cure, I reassembled the GPS. The power switch worked fine. All of the Garmin GPSs I have used that support paperless geocaching use this type of switch arrangement, so I suspect that they may have to do this repair on another at some time in the future. The repairs didn't take too long, and the 2 packs of Sugru were less than $10 in total. And each time I had enough left for other projects. Both repairs kept me from trashing an otherwise good GPSR or selling it for parts. It's always handy to have a older spare unit as a spare.
That's right.
Which I read that wrong.
You can use it to record your tracks if nothing else.
Yeah, and you've actually used Sugru for some other stuff as well, so it's a handy material to have around.
Yeah, so I used it on a dishwasher. You know, when you're the little pins that come up on the dishwasher, the forks, the tines, whatever you want to call them, in the dishwasher rack, you'll eventually
limit switches.
No. On the dishwasher rack, you know, where you put your plates in between, you got these.
Oh, the post things. Yeah.
Coming up. They will, the plastic on them will come off over time. And, and then you'd get little rust spots on your white dishes. And that drove my wife crazy. So I got Sugru, put little bits of it, just a little ball right on top of each one of those spots, worked great. And once it cures, it's completely waterproof. I mean, it ran in the dishwasher for, I don't know, several months, and then we ended up replacing the whole thing because, well, more than just that failed.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of stories like that lately, and
yeah,
right now it's apparently kind of tough to get replacement dishwashers.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not as bad as getting replacement stoves and refrigerators.
Interesting.
But yeah, that kind of stuff has gotten tough.
Yeah. Now, Wits End is the one who introduced me to Sugru, and he has made some things that I'm like, oh, this is absolutely incredible. You know, I can't remember what it was. He had something that he wanted on the dash of his car, and he made little Sugru feet for it, but shaped them really nicely. And that rubber sat on the dash without sliding. So,
well, and the people have used it for strain relief on cables.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially those early lightning cables, people were breaking them constantly. So someone just took a little bit of the Sugru and put a little cone shape around the end of the cable, and supposedly never really had a problem with it since. So even little things like that, it's just a nice, handy thing to have around. I actually got a pack of it after you told me about it 2, maybe 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I've actually even opened it up. And the problem that people have told me happens with the Sugru is it's a airtight pack that it's shipped in, and as soon as you open that up, you have to use that whole tube.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you don't, it's going to be dead anyway. Mm-hmm. So people will save up Sugru projects and do, an hour or two of making repairs with all of this Sugru that they've got open and waiting. So next one, Next Web. This one has you a little nervous, I think. And it's a company that claims to use nuclear waste to make batteries that can last 28,000 years without charging. So we're going to quote from the article here for a bit. Well, one battery developer claims that its cells can last for 28,000 years, and that's just on one charge. The secret? Nuclear waste. California battery company NDB says its nano diamond batteries, which I'm assuming is where NDB comes from, act like tiny generators by using leftover radioactive material from nuclear reactors to create electrical energy. Left untreated, the radioactive graphite component is highly dangerous, hard to store safely, and has a very long half-life. NDB purifies this graphite and uses it to create carbon-14 diamonds. That layer of diamonds is coated in another layer, this time of carbon-12 diamonds, which acts as a tamper-proof protector to contain the radioactive material. These structures are then layered to create cells capable of producing electricity. NDB says that it could repurpose the structure to fit any kind of standardized battery size, like a double, AAA, and so on. Before you get too concerned, the levels of radiation given off by the battery are lower than the natural radiation of the human body, so it should be safe.
Should be safe.
You know, this just really intrigues me, and I have no expectation they're actually going to be able to pull it off and make it economical. But how cool is it that they're, number one, taking something that's otherwise a very hazardous contaminant, making it relatively safe and putting it into good use? And how awesome is it that you could actually build a battery that could potentially power something like a I'm trying to call it solar, but that's a space probe, for a multiple year mission that otherwise you really couldn't do.
Okay, sending it out into space, I got no problem with. Keeping it in my pocket, I don't want to do.
Yeah, I mean, they claim that the package is going to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that is likely the case. And it's made of diamonds, so it should be relatively resilient, and you don't have to worry about like crushing it, leakage, that kind of thing. But yes, it does make me a little nervous. However, go ahead.
I would love to see this, like, say, in a smartphone. Here's your smartphone. It's going to run for 10,000 years.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that I don't get out of this article.
Then what do you do with the battery when you're done with it?
This is a finite power source still.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to run out.
Right.
I'm thinking that it's going to run for X number of years regardless. Right. It's always going to be able to turn out that amount of power, whatever that is.
Right.
And you're not really going to be able to drain it.
Right. They're using a very long-lived isotope
material. Yeah.
That's going to produce power at a constant rate for whatever their half-life is. In this case, I'm guessing 28,000 years.
Yeah. And that's a little bit ludicrous, but if it's got the output, I could definitely see this being really, really useful for industrial type applications, for research, for that kind of stuff. I'm not sure this is the kind of thing that's going to hit consumers. And if for no other reason, if they do get it to the point where they can produce these, it's still likely to be really, really expensive.
Yeah, it's got to be wicked expensive. But, think about that. It's so nice to be able to take this nuclear waste and just spread it out all over the planet rather than group it all in one spot where, it's hard to deal with. So we'll just put a little bit in this house and a little bit over here, over there.
Well, in all seriousness, I do like the idea of trying to repurpose this material that otherwise doesn't get reused.
Right.
And the thing that kind of bugs me about that whole thing is apparently outside of US and a few other countries, they do allow the reprocessing. So you can switch the plutonium to uranium and back and forth and repurpose it and run it down to the point that it's really been used up. And in the US, they're so afraid of someone grabbing that for nuclear weapons that we don't allow for it. That means we're not going to get anything out of these power plants that's even close to being used up. It's just not going to be used, and it has a ton of harmful radiation.
Right. What do you do with it when it's done? Now, the article goes on to say the company claims its technology can be scaled up and it could be used to make battery packs suitable for an electric car that lasts 90 years. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, which does make it sound like maybe
Find at night. It's the glowing one.
yeah, well, maybe there is something where they're able to drain the power out of it faster.
Mhm.
More power comes out and it doesn't last as long. I really don't know, but it's intriguing enough that I figured it was worth talking about on the show.
Oh, definitely. I mean, think about that. Maybe there's a chance of no more buying batteries.
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about some of the other technologies on the show that had a lot of promise that never came to fruition.
Right.
Think about the fuel cells, where we started to get fuel cells that you could buy at REI and some of the other outdoor retailers, and they fizzled. They went nowhere.
They went nowhere fast.
Yeah. And the talk was we were going to have, sorry, what was that?
They were somewhat dangerous. But so were lithium ion batteries, right? We're finding
lithium ions are very dangerous, but it's different types of dangerous.
But does it supply the 1.21 gigawatts needed for the flux capacitor?
Oh, see there, we found the solution. These are for time machines.
Yes. Well, no, the solution for time machines is to go get a Mr. Fusion.
No, because this way you don't have to worry about that power source. It lasts for 28,000 years. So
what's that? Garbage. We've already seen Mr. Fusion work.
Yes, but what happens if you go to a part of the timeline where you don't have any place to land? There may not be trash that you could actually throw in there. So if you had this 28,000 year battery, you're fine to travel as long as you stay within that 28,000 year time frame.
Oh, so
because as soon as you go back more than the 28,000 years,
you'd be generating more power because and the farther you go into the future, you generate less power.
Well, no, if you go too far back, then it just like reverts to its native elements or something like that. It undoes itself. I don't know.
The only thing I know that could produce
1.21 gigawatts
is a lightning bolt, but you never know when or where they're going to strike.
We do now.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, the GSM times 2 said the same thing. Unless you go forward 28,000 years, then you're out of battery.
Yeah, then the battery is just spent.
Yeah. Done. That's where you need Mr. Fusion.
Yeah. All right. We better wrap this up because we're getting way too silly.
Power.
So I was talking over you again. What was that?
And what in the future needs that kind of power?
The 28,000 year battery?
Gigawatts.
Oh.
That you just, have a Mr. Fusion laying around in your house to produce that kind of power.
Well, it powers the whole house.
That's a lot of power.
Yeah, but you charge up the battery. And, you've got those giant video screens all over the place. Those have to take a lot of power.
Hoverboards. Yeah,
the hoverboards have to be charged at night. You've got the, what was it? Mr. Hydrolator or whatever it was called, where they hydrated the pizza from Pizza Hut.
Okay.
GSM times 2 says you can't go back before the manufacturing date of the battery.
That's not true, though. They went back before the manufacturer date of the DeLorean.
Right. So, yeah, I think there's some kind of exception carved out for that.
Okay. Only if it's a DeLorean.
That could be. Because, they also went forward in time long past the end of the DeLorean Motor Company.
Right. Fun fact, Ford came to them and said, we'll pay you $75,000 if you make this a Mustang. And the director goes, Doc Brown wouldn't drive a Mustang. Okay. No product placement. Hey, folks, thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure you check the Cashomaniacs website at cashomaniacs.com for more on the Geo Gearheads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners. So leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads@cashomaniacs.com or through the many channels of social media. Your support helps keep the Cashmaniac shows coming, so please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cashmaniac shows. Geo Gearheads is produced by Chris Umfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. The show's copyright 2020 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with the Cashmaniacs.